When factorizing quadratics, you have to first look at these two numbers. The number which has the x attached to it, two numbers have to add together to equal that number. So two numbers have to add together to equal 5. And with the number 6 here, two numbers have to times together to equal 6. So what two numbers can we times together to get 6? We can do 1 times 6, or we can do 2 times 3. So now that we've written the list of numbers that can times together to equal 6, we have to see which one of these two numbers can add together to equal 5. The only one, and that one is this option here. So we do 3 plus 2 equals 5. So now when we do our double brackets, we can write x plus 2 and x plus 3. Because it wants to solve the equation for when it equals 0, it's asking us for what x number do we get the answer 0. So the main concept here is anything times 0 equals 0. So if we make any of these two brackets equal 0, the final answer will be 0. So to make this bracket into 0, we have to write, so we want to make this bracket into 0, so just write the equation x plus 2 equals 0. That means x would have to equal minus 2. If we want to make this bracket equal 0, we have to write x plus 3 equals 0. Then write, and then we know x has to equal minus 3. So the solution for this equation is x equals minus 2, x equals minus 3. Now moving on to the next question. So do the exact same thing. One thing to realize with negative numbers is this whole thing is a part of the second number. And we had this number as well. So two numbers have to add together to get minus 16. So, and two numbers have to times together to get 64. So now let's list some numbers that get us 64. So we got 1 times 64, 2 times 32, 3 doesn't go into 64, 4 does, 4 times 16, 5 doesn't go into it, 6 doesn't go into it, 7 doesn't go into it, 8 goes into it, so 8 times 8, and we can stop here. So now if we think, if we have these numbers, 1 and 64, 2 and 32, 4 and 16, 8 and 8, which one of these pairs of numbers could get me minus 16? So I could have any sign, any positive or negative sign on these numbers. Which one of these pairs of numbers would get me minus 16? And it would be this one. So if they were both minus 8, you would get minus 8, which equals minus 16. It's perfect. Exactly what we need. And now we can do the double brackets. Put m in one of the brackets and put m in the other bracket. And then we put minus 8 here and put minus 8 here. And because the equation says equals 0, we need to make sure we write equals 0. So how are we going to make this, how are we going to work out what value of m will make the equation equal 0? Just like I said earlier, the main concept is anything times 0 equals 0. So we're at m minus 8 equals 0, m minus 8 equals 0. That would mean m would have to equal 8. And m would also here have to equal 8. Now moving on to the next question. The difference between this question and the previous questions is that this says y squared minus 6y equals 27 instead of saying equals 0. So the first thing you want to do with these questions is always make the equation equal 0. So first rearrange the equation, bring the 27 over to the other side. So one thing to remember is whenever you move a number from one side to the other, it changes sign. So this right now is positive 27. So when it moves over this side, it becomes minus 27. All right, equals 0. Perfect. And now let's factorize like we did before. So we have to look at the middle number and the last number. So two numbers have to add together to equal minus 6, and two numbers have to times together to equal minus 27. So now let's look at which pair of numbers equal 27. So we've got 1 times 27. 2 doesn't go into it. 3 goes into it. 3 times 9. And we'll stop here. So now if we do the exact same concept again, if 1 and 27 were a pair, and 3 and 9 were a pair, and you could have any signs in front of them, which means you can make this number plus 3 or minus 3, or make the 9 plus 9 or minus 9. Which pair of number will get you minus 6? It would be this one. Because if you did 3 minus 9, you get minus 6. And also if you times these two numbers together, minus 9 times 3, you get minus 27. So it fulfills both of our criteria of a pair of numbers which can add together to get minus 6 and times together to equal minus 27. Now we have to put these numbers in a double bracket. So write open brackets y minus 9 and y plus 3 equals 0. So how do I make this bracket equal 0? I write y minus 9 equals 0. Add 9 to both sides. Y equals 9. With this equation, I write y plus 3 equals 0. Take away 3 from both sides. That gets me y equals minus 3. And that is our answer. Y equals 9, y equals minus 3. Now we've got an exam question here where we can practice all the skills we learned in the previous questions. So the question says the surface area of a cuboid is 270 centimeters squared. So the first thing for us to realize is that a cuboid has 6 surfaces, and the surfaces are divided into 2 surfaces which are square shaped, so 2 shapes like that, and then there's 4 shapes that look like this. So these are the 2 squares, and then the rectangles are here, here, on the side, and the bottom as well. So top, bottom, and left and right, the other sides. Okay. Now let's try to work out the surface area of the square aspects. The square aspect has, let me just change color. The square aspect of the cuboid has an area of, a surface area of x times x, which equals x squared. And because there's 2 of those surfaces, we do 2 times x squared, which equals 2x squared. Now the rectangle has a length of x plus 6 and a width of x. So these two have the same width. So x plus 6. So I write x brackets x times 6. So when you write x like this, it just means these two numbers times each other, which gets us x squared plus 6x. And because there's 4 of those surfaces, I have to now do 4 times everything within this bracket, which gets us 4x squared plus 24x. So 4x squared plus 24x. And now let's add these two together. So we've got 4x squared plus 24x added together with the 2x squared. So when you add this together, you get 6x squared plus 24x. So in the question, it told us there the total surface area is 270 centimeters squared. So we know, because now we've worked out the surface area of this shape, and these are the only shapes that make up the cuboid, which means the answer we worked out here has to be the formula to work out, or the total surface area of the cuboid has to equal the number we worked out here. So what we can write is, x squared plus 24x equals 270. And now we want to try to simplify this. So let's divide everything by 6, and that leaves us with x squared plus 4x equals 45. And now let's rearrange it to make the equation equal 0. So bring the 45 over to this side. So whenever you move a number from one side to the other, it changes sign. So right now it's positive 45, and now become minus 45 equals 0. Perfect. And now we've managed to answer this question. Perfect. Now it says find x. So once again, we have to look at this number here and this number here. So two numbers have to add together to equal 4, and two numbers have to times together to equal minus 45. So the pair of numbers that can equal 45 are 1 times 45. We got 3 times 15, and we got 5 times 9. Now, which pair of numbers? So would be 1 and 45, 3 and 15, and 5 and 9. Which one of these pairs of numbers would get us 4 if we could change the sign to any of these numbers? So which one of them would get us 4? And the answer is 5 and 9, because if you did 9 minus 5, you get 4. And also if you do 9 times minus 5, you get minus 45. And that fulfills our criteria perfectly. So both these are criteria confirmed. So now what we can do is just write the brackets out as uh, x equals minus x, take away 5, and x plus 9 equals 0. Because they want to solve the equation, so you have to write it as equals 0. So how do we work out what the values of x are? You write x minus 5 equals 0, and x plus 9 equals 0. And now we just add 5 to both sides. And here what we do, we take away 9 from both sides to make it equal 0. That gets us minus 9. So the important thing with this question is we're dealing with a cuboid. And a cuboid can only, or any shape in real life, can only ever have a positive length. So there's only one x value which is positive, which is this one. So I mean the final answer is x equals 5 centimeters. And it can't be this one because there's no such thing as a negative length. Now we've got that, so x equals 5. Now the final question is, find the volume of a cuboid. So the way you work out the volume of a cuboid is just times all the sides together. So we know this is 5, we also know this side is 5, and then 5 plus 6. So instead of writing x here, we write 5 equals 11. We know the top part here is 11. So to work out the volume of a cuboid, we just have to do 11 times 5, which equals 275 centimeters cubed.